If you arrived to this video, is because your Looker Studio dashboards are getting slow and you are super frustrated about it and want to fix this. To solve this question of why Looker Studio gets so slow and so annoying, we need to understand first how this tool was made. And the first thing that we need to get clear is that whenever we are running Looker dashboard, all of these run entirely in our browsers, unlike other platforms such as Power BI and Tableau. These last two are desktop platforms, so they have better resources and they are not running all inside the browser. That makes them a lot faster. The second point is that Looker Studio queries your data sources live every time the dashboard loads. And this is the process that Looker Studio follows. First, it will do an API request to any connector that you have added as a data source. Then we will have to wait for that API to respond back to the request Looker Studio did. Depending on the data source you have connected, there may be rate limits or platform delays. After we receive the answer from the API, Looker Studio will run all the calculations you have inside your dashboard, such as any join, any data blending you have between data sources, any calculated feed. All of that will happen inside your browser. And finally, it will render all the information to each chart. The third point is that Google Studio doesn't have a caching layer by default. I recommend that you have all your data sources in the default refreshness of Looker Studio, that is 12 hours. So every 12 hours, Looker Studio will do the calling of those APIs. And the fourth reason why Looker Studio can get slow is due to the connectors. There are some connectors such as Google Ads and Meta Ads that are meant for reporting, so the speed of those connectors is really good. But there are other connectors, for example, HubSpot or Shopify, that may have lower rate limits, and this will affect the speed of your Looker Studio dashboard. All of these 4 points are around stuff that you cannot control. So now let's take a look on some things that we can actually do and that we can change inside our dashboards to get them load faster. So we will run a quick checklist to understand what things we can change. The first thing we will going to check is how many charts and widgets we have per page in our Looker dashboard. Remember that Looker Studio suggests having less than 25 charts per page. If you have more than this in one page, you should reduce the amount of charts and split all of those charts in different pages. The second thing that we're gonna check is the active data blends we have in our Looker dashboard. Whenever you join Meta Ads and Google Ads or any other data source, you are multiplying the API calls that Looker Studio will have to do, and that will overload your dashboard. The third thing that we're going to check is the amount of calculated fields we have in our dashboard. Remember that Looker Studio was meant for data visualization, not to run calculations. So if you have too many calculated fields, that will overload your dashboard. Another thing that you can check is what is the date range that you are setting up for your Looker Studio dashboards. You should shorten that date range to last 7 days, last 30 days, so that way Looker Studio has less rows to check whenever they are doing the API calls, and that way your charts load faster. This one is a pro tip. You can use the extract data connector from Looker Studio. What you're going to do there is that you're going to click on add data, you select extract data, then you select the data source from where you want to extract the data, and then you will have to select the properties that you actually want to store. That will help Looker Studio to have a memory of what you actually want to see, so whenever you load the dashboard, it gets faster. This has a constraint, and is that you need to remember that the extract data connector can catch up to 100 megabytes. So it may be less than what you actually need. And finally, if nothing of this works, you need to check if Looker Studio is down. It happens, it's awful, it's annoying, but it's nothing that we can control. We just need to wait. But the best two ways to solve this issue by root is having all the information outside of Looker Studio pre-calculated and then connecting it to Looker Studio. And that's what we're gonna see right now. The first option that we can use to store our data is using Google Sheets. We can connect all our marketing data platforms, send the information to a Google Sheets, and then create the custom metrics and custom dimensions. And after we have done that, then we can connect it to Looker Studio, and that will help your Looker Studio dashboard to load a lot faster. But there's a caveat when you're using Google Sheets to store your data. What happened is that Google Sheets cannot support millions of rows. According to Google Sheets, you can upload around 10 million rows, but that's not real true because Those 10 millions are correlated to the amount of columns that you have inside that Google Sheet. I can assure you by my own experience that if you upload a dataset of around 1 million rows and just two columns to Google Sheets, that document will get crashed and you will not be able to create custom dimensions or custom metrics. And that's a caveat with Google Sheets. If you have this amount of data, the best way to resolve this issue is to get all of your data and send it to Google BigQuery. Google BigQuery is a data warehouse that can store all your information. You don't have a limit of rows, and then you can connect all of your tables that are inside Google BigQuery to Looker Studio with the native connector that Looker Studio already has. Right now you are seeing in the screen how long does it take to a report to load if it is connected to Looker Studio against a Looker Studio report that is connected to the direct data source. If you see, the Google BigQuery report loads just in 2 seconds against the other one that just one chart took almost 30 seconds. It's a good time, it's not a problem, but if you have a big amount of data, this load time will get worse. You can start sending all your marketing data information to Google Sheets or Google BigQuery by using our tool, Porter Metrics. The easiest way to do it, you go inside our tool, you create your account, you log in, you create your connection, you select your destination, Google Sheets or Google BigQuery, then you select your data sources, you select the metrics and dimensions of each data source that you selected, and then you can send the table that you are seeing in the preview to Google Sheets or to Google BigQuery already formatted, so you don't have to think about SQL joins and many things that make this process super complex. We make it easier for you, so just in minutes you can have all your information flowing to Google BigQuery and then connected to Looker Studio. So that's all around why Looker Studio was slow. See you in the next one.